Hello everyone, this is Abigail coming to you straight from, drumroll please, her bed. That's right folks, I am currently coming to you straight from my bedroom in my house. It's thrilling, I know. Today we're going to be talking about how I brainstorm for my short films featuring existential crises. Yes, that's plural. More than one existential crisis will make its appearance in this video today. I have made maybe 8 or 9 films in the past 3 to 4 years, 2 or maybe 3 of which I would say are anything approximating something I would be proud of. But that doesn't include other short films I've written up, ideas I have on the back burner for a later date, and the 5 or so short film scripts I currently have in the works. So I'd say I've become fairly experienced with brainstorming short films, although that doesn't mean that I'm good at it. So, a few weeks ago, I got this idea to try and make a film completely 100% by myself, and I decided to brainstorm a few ideas to see if I could make it work. So here is how I brainstorm short films. Hopefully you will find it helpful. So before I even get to brainstorming and thinking of an idea for a movie, I make sure to keep a collection of ideas and inspirations. I have a little notebook where I keep quotes and poems and other ideas. I also have the Notes app on my phone, which is full of random jottings, and there's a dedicated note in there for ideas if one strikes. A lot of my inspiration comes from people watching, overheard scraps of conversation, or funny dynamics between a parent and a child or between siblings. I aspire to make films that reflect reality in some way, even if they are highly stylized, so I find the behavior of people to be a constant source of inspiration. Of course, I am also often inspired by poetry and books and short stories and other movies, and it's always a good idea to be constantly consuming something that will inspire you for the future. I have found that once you actually start writing short film scripts and making short films, more ideas just tend to follow. Once you've made 1 or 2 short films, it's usually easier to come up with an idea because you already have 1 or 2 tucked away. So I usually only formally brainstorm when I have a very specific set of limitations, as in the case of this particular short film, which I wanted to make completely alone, so that really narrowed down my plot options. Obviously, there are lots of different ways to brainstorm, this is just the way that I do it. While I don't always do this, before I start brainstorming, it can be helpful to list my parameters. These would be any limitations that I have, such as wanting to do it completely by myself, the target length, the purpose of the film, etc. I think about characters I want to use, any special objects I want to center the story around, any theme that I want to emphasize. By the end of this process, I usually find 1 or 2 characters, themes, or objects that I want to use as a jumping off point for the rest of my story. For example, I wanted to make a movie featuring origami for a long time, and so I have a lot of different movie ideas for that. For this movie in particular, I was obviously limited by having only 1 character, so I thought of stories that can be told with just a single person. These included a story about a girl who's completely alone for her birthday. I thought about doing a story around a single act of kindness and how it can change one person's day. So those are just some examples of the ideas you can come up with even with pretty extreme limitations. In the past, I've thought about themes that I want to utilize, such as sibling relationships, or particular characters that I've already envisioned. You can also think about genres. I usually stick to 1 genre, which is, I don't know what I'd call it exactly, I guess like an indie realistic drama? I don't know. But obviously you might want to branch out and try all different types of films and all different genres. After I've listed all my parameters, I write down all my ideas. I'm usually able to automatically eliminate a few of them, but if you're just starting out, it can be helpful to literally write down every single idea, even if you think it might not work. Don't go in depth, just word vomit all your ideas. Maybe they're all variations on the same idea, maybe they're totally different. Just write them all down. So once I have my list of ideas, I start eliminating them, getting rid of the easy ones first. These would be any ideas that are too extravagant or any ideas that don't catch my imagination. However, I do end up having to be pretty ruthless and have to really cut out my options. I liken it to the Hunger Games because it is just a brutal process of elimination. I also get really attached to ideas and I have really horrible indecision. So sometimes when I truly can't decide, I'll take each idea and write a couple sentences about each one, elaborating on the plot a little bit. This process usually helps me to see which ideas hold water and can really be expanded into a story rather than just a concept. It also helps me see which ideas are just too sketchy to become a short film and which ones I will save for a later date. While I try to take all the elements of a story into consideration, sometimes I just have to be ruthless and cut ideas without always meditating on the merits of the story. Sometimes certain ideas just feel right and others don't. So once I have my topic, whether I got it through the processes of elimination or whether I just picked the one that spoke to me, I start writing. Or I don't even start writing, I just pick a topic, which is promptly followed by a serious existential crisis, the first of many, where I question literally everything. It'll be things like, this plot is stupid, I need to fix it, maybe one of the other ideas was better, what if I picked the wrong choice? Did I plagiarize? I see the influences of other movies or stories in this idea, so maybe I'm just stealing the whole thing, maybe it's not original, maybe there's influences that I don't see, maybe I really have stolen it. It goes on and on and on and on. I'm not always sure why I have such a big existential crisis. It might be imposter syndrome, it might be that I'm fearful of making decisions or fearful of making the short film. Sometimes I just overcome it and I keep on going with the idea that I have, but sometimes the existential crisis is actually helpful because it reveals some problems with the idea or with the plot that I hadn't thought of. So this leads to step 5, back to the drawing board, featuring indecisiveness. So after my existential crisis, I usually go back to the list of ideas and see if there's a better one. Sometimes I stick with my original plot and realize that my existential crisis was unfounded. Sometimes I make some changes to fix any flaws that I see, and sometimes I pick a new idea entirely. This is a process that just requires a lot of patience, which is something I am sorely lacking in, but sometimes it just takes a little time to find the right idea. Step 6, write, featuring step 5. So then I start writing. Writing the screenplay really magnifies any small issues in the original plot description, and sometimes you have to go back to step 5 and change the idea or find a new one. Sometimes I have to go all the way back to step 1 and come up with an entirely new plot idea. Sometimes not. Again, this process just requires a lot of patience, but having a solid idea really makes the writing process go a lot smoother. This may seem like a really anticlimactic end to the brainstorming process, but brainstorming and writing are almost one big step, and writing the script is a topic for another video. Some tips for the trepidatious brainstormer. Again, I want to emphasize that I am no expert when it comes to writing scripts, but I do feel that I have learned a lot, and if there is anything I know that may be helpful to you all, I want to share it. Number 1, don't be afraid to start over or go back to the drawing board. It can be tough to go back to the beginning, particularly in my case, as I am usually very eager to get to the writing and filming stage. But sometimes you just have to go back and rework your ideas. At the same time, don't be a perfectionist and don't be paralyzed by doubt. You need to find the balance between seeing that a story won't work and being afraid that it's not good enough or that you're not good enough to make it. Number 2, keep a notebook. I really encourage you to keep a notebook where you can write down all your little ideas and inspirations that you might have that will be helpful when you start brainstorming your short films. These could be observations, they could be quotes, they could be song lyrics, they could be films, ideas, books. This notebook will really help you when you have to generate ideas, and it can also serve as a source of constant inspiration. Number 3, list your resources. Make a list of all the resources you have. Actors, locations, props, cool effects, a friend who is into music production or animation, your uncle who owns a really cool house, etc. This list will help you to know your limitations, and it'll also allow you to see all the cool or useful things that you have access to and that you can incorporate into your films. Number 4, ask yourself, what kind of movie do I want to make? Go beyond just genre or style. Think about what you want your movie to do, how you want it to affect your audience, or how you want it to affect yourself. Is it an experiment for you to try out a certain style or aspect ratio? Is it meant for an audience? And if so, what is it supposed to accomplish? Is it supposed to inspire them, make them sad, entertain them? And finally, I have a few tips for you if you're struggling with writer's block and or indecisiveness. These are 2 things that I experience a lot, so hopefully I have some helpful ideas for you. Number 1, change your surroundings. If you are really stuck on an idea, or if you can't choose between multiple ideas, take a break. Go for a walk, eat a snack, listen to some music, work on something else. And then when you come back, it can also be helpful to work somewhere else. If you usually work in your bedroom, try working outside, or going to a coffee shop, or doing it in the kitchen. Just change your surroundings so you'll feel refreshed and will hopefully be able to look at your problem with a new perspective. Number 2, give it space. Some ideas are just difficult or complicated, and if you've been working on it for a long time, sometimes you just need to give it space. Put it out of sight and then come back to it the next day or the next week, hopefully with some increased clarity and with a new perspective. Number 3, talk to someone else. If you're really stuck on a problem, it can be helpful to ask someone else. Obviously, you have to be careful about who you talk to. You don't want to pick the wrong person and then be crushed by their judgment or inhibited by their opinion. But talking to someone you trust can help you decide between various ideas or help you work out the problems of a specific idea. And it's always good to have a person that you can bounce ideas off of. Finally, remember that all your short film ideas will still be there even if you don't choose to use them right now. This is particularly helpful to me as I am very indecisive. And it's just very helpful for me to remember that no matter what idea I pick, I always have all the rest to come back to, and that it's not like by picking one, I am just eliminating all the rest forever and ever. Alright, that's all I've got for you guys today. Hopefully this was helpful, or at the very least interesting, and that there are some things in here that you will be able to use next time you brainstorm a short film. I am working on a new short film. I'm so excited about it, and I hope to have more details for you all soon. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.